see, I think Delenn's 2 major secrets. The last 2 that she's been holding on to these 4 seasons. And I don't know. I was looking at other creators' reaction to this episode, which the episode is, this is Babylon 5 season 4, episode 9, entitled Atonement. And I had seen some other creators talk about it, and they were saying like, oh, well, this is kind of a breather. There's so much going on in the universe. The story is pretty dense, so this is episode to take a break. And I don't know, like, what do you
think? Like, they dropped the biggest bomb on us. I mean, the bomb was kind of hinted a while ago, but I mean, that is a pretty big piece of information.
Yeah.
To the story. And they spent the whole episode focusing on that one bit of lore. To call it filler, I don't understand.
Honestly, I can see this episode taking place in season 3. I think it would have been pretty good. And we know the story of all of the different behind the scenes things that alter the trajectory of the show. The fact that they didn't finish the show 2 episodes ago, the reason why there are 5 seasons, why the Shadow War is not the center of it anymore. On one hand, well, I do love this show. This comes across as a little out of order. It's a little sloppy. However, the episode itself, I think, is done pretty well. They got to this secret, and the way that they told it, I thought was great. And what they revealed, I thought was pretty great. And how it affects the universe. I mean, it changes the way you see the whole show now.
Yeah.
So if you go back and watch it with this knowledge, you're like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And there are some habits that Delenn displays that you realize, like, oh, this has an origin. I know where that came from now. So, it's kind of cool to watch.
I thought it paralleled the last episode where humans were complaining about other species, being a part of their existence.
Yeah.
The whole human thing. Ew, he's trying to make friends with the aliens. They're going to attack us. No. And whereas in this one, they're like, the aliens are going to breed with us and we're going to have their blood and find out always been the case.
Yep. That's kind of funny because we're seeing the xenophobia. Well, we recognize the xenophobia of the humans, and, watching the show, you understand parts of where it comes from, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's kind of a gross thing because humans are supposed to be the good guys. We're supposed to be enlightened. We're supposed to accept everybody. You saw Star Trek. The Federation is wonderful. But I think what we learn about the Minbari kind of shows the flip side of that, because the Minbari are xenophobic. At least some of them are. And they have a reason, kind of, but the reason is pretty shallow. And we'll talk a little bit more when we get there. There's a couple of things that do come up since this episode is entitled Atonement. What constitutes atonement in one's life like? First of all, what was the evil thing that they did? And then how do you make up for that? That is directly addressed in this episode. And how do past mistakes shape our present relationships? And can an individual overcome the past? It's some pretty deep stuff. We get to see some turmoil, like the turmoil that Delenn is in. And it's so frustrating watching because, look, all she has to do is say what happened. All she has to do is say what happened, and she would not until this time. So there's 3 years of us just watching her hold back the truth, and now we finally get it.
Right. Well, I mean, we kind of slightly knew that she was responsible for starting the war.
Yeah.
And because she was on and the great had to approve it. So kind of like our Congress or whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I have to mention that whenever sci-fi fans or any type of geekdom fans respond to ideas in a show or movie that is philosophical, they call it filler, and that's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, it made me think, therefore filler. If you're not blowing stuff up and kicking people and throwing people through walls, it's pointless.
And we've seen actual filler episodes like that one where Garibaldi got lost on deck 17.
Yeah,
And that
because that's
monster. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it feels like it's in the universe. It doesn't pull you out of it, but it's not main story.
Yeah, it's not terribly important. Like, we haven't said anything about deck 17 or whatever, Gray 17 since then. So it's like this is a way for us to tell a story without changing the world.
And it was a little philosophical. I mean, everything in Babylon 5 is philosophical, but this one was heavier on the philosophical aspects.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
even with going into the dreaming is her doing shadow work, which
Mm-hmm.
is like something that you have to be self-aware to do.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
She was what's that stuff called? Ayahuasca. That's what they were drinking.
Yo, that's what they were drinking. She had a spiritual engagement, a spiritual experience. And so did Lanier, because he was right there with her. He was our spirit guide.
It's his honor to be a spirit guide. That's his favorite phrase.
Yep. All right, let's jump into it. So the show does touch on a couple of things that are still happening. One, Garibaldi, he quit a couple episodes ago, and they're fitting Zach for a new uniform. So because he's now chief of security, he doesn't like it. He says it doesn't fit right, and his whole thing is like, it doesn't feel right because it feels like Garibaldi's not coming back. Lanier points that out to him. They have that conversation. But the truth is, Garibaldi took off. Bro, it's you. I'm still questioning if he's the best they got, but if he is, then okay.
To a main character already had, so he had to go into that position.
Yeah. He gets poked by a Minbari because he insulted them. He's showing his xenophobia, racism, or whatever. He thinks that it's goofy that the Minbari are wearing robes and stuff. I guess he kind of has that non-religious aspect that's similar to Garibaldi, but I'm sorry. It's just, they play Zach as like not very intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm just an average Joe.
Yeah. Which the average person isn't that dumb, are they?
No.
Are they?
Consider the fact that a lot of, especially in a capitalist society, a lot of people who are intelligent don't get the opportunity to be that. Yeah. They're seen as only needing these skills. Society only needs you to have those skills, so they only see you as having those skills. Like most people, a lot of see people as their job. So like if you're this, they just assume things about you. Like a custodian, people might assume a custodian's not intelligent because like the job doesn't require certain degrees or whatever. You're just cleaning. That's something anyone could do. Like it doesn't take the individual into consideration, but a lot of people won't. Oh, this is funny meme. It's not funny. Maybe it is, but there's a kid who's looking at a construction worker, and the mom is like, well, you should do good in school so you don't grow up to be like him. And the construction worker says, maybe you should be considerate of other people so you don't grow up to be like your mom, something like that.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
He's worse. Like he's just doing his job, minding his own business, and she's like judging him because he has a job that's very necessary in a society. Yeah. Sorry. More necessary than what she probably do.
And, due to Babylon 5 seceding from Earth, Zach is doing a very important job. He's just, I don't know, he's just dragging the class of the room down whenever he's in it. The sophistication of it. So, yeah.
It's very stereotypical.
Yeah. And it's because he's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe he's actually an introvert and he's trying to figure out who are his people? Where does he feel safe? He doesn't really feel safe around Minbari or any other aliens. He just seems long suffering or whatever, but I mean, he'll figure it out.
I mean, like through the whole show, like whenever they show him, he's just a caricature of what the 90s thought an average Joe was.
Yeah, yeah. So while that's going on, Delenn is meeting with Callan, who is a member of her house, and
Mhm.
she is being summoned to do the dreaming, which I don't know exactly what that is. It sounds very important. And if I were to take a guess, it's something like a spiritual journey where a very important decision is going to be made at the end of it, because the way Callan says is like, hey, if this goes bad, you won't be able to come back to Babylon 5. You won't be able to return to Sheridan.
Right.
And
And they're like judging why she's in love with him,
yeah,
which sounds insane.
actually, I hear you on that, but I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of interested because the way it seems like the dreaming goes is your house, your tribe or whatever, they summon you to do the dreaming because she's doing all of the ritualistic stuff to join Sheridan and so they could get married or whatever, right? And they're all trying to figure out like, hey, is this even good for you? And while it's coming across as these other people who are not in our relationship are being overreaching, it also comes across as like, hey, there is a community that cares about you and they want to ask, are you safe? Is this good for you? Is this going to be good for us when you're around? They're not just asking, do we approve? They're doing some investigation. And I kind of like being able to say to my community, hey, here's what's going on. What do you guys think? And they're like, you know what? Let's take a look and see how good things are. Now, I can see how it can be abused, which it does get abused in this episode.
When you put it that way, it makes sense. Like, it reminds me of what was it? Vietnam,
Oh,
where you when you're first courting someone, they go on dates with the whole family.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, you have to like hang out as a fan. There's a lot of cultures that do that. Like, it's very tribal. Like, you don't just get to know that person personally. You have to become friends with the whole family before you get to go be intimate.
Yeah, because
Like,
potentially they're going to be your family.
yeah. So before you can do anything on your own, you have to be approved by the whole family first. At least that's what I get from Vietnam movies. But there are other cultures that do that too.
Hmm.
Not the name right now.
So Ivanova, she skips out on a maintenance meeting because she's going to hang out with the Drazi. She has on her green sash from season 2, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna go to this party. I heard it's pretty wild. She kind of likes the Drazi now. She's one of their leaders, and so maybe she's kind of warmed up to the culture. She seems like she's really looking forward to this tradition or whatever. Also, to blow off a meeting, she's like, no, I'm not going to a meeting. I'm busy. We check in on Franklin, and he is installing a prosthetic eye on Jakar. And this actually I wanted to talk about because Jakar, remember, he's the character who has gone through so much in this season, in this series. He went from being kind of a potential villain to a sympathetic hero type character. He went from being a warrior to more of a spiritual leader. He went from being kind of like a dictator or a person seeking power to a person just giving it away. He's gone through a full transformation and he sacrificed a lot. He got his eye plucked out. He has his dignity beaten out of him. And now his people are free. Centauri are gone from Narn. And he is being helped by the people who he was not so trusting of at first. Also, every time he did try to help the humans, nothing that he was offering was helpful. Right? And his character is just so interesting. Everything that they did with this character was so amazing.
He still wants to keep going and doing things despite how much goes wrong.
He's he can't help himself. He's very charismatic. But he's getting a new eye, and the humans are helping him receive, get his eyesight back and everything. We do get a little foreshadowing. You got to take your eye out and clean it, but be sure to turn it off every time and charge it because you don't want to keep receiving images in the back of your brain. And he's like, oh, really? I can see through this thing even if it's not in my head? Okay. Foreshadow.
And he's sitting there waving at himself. Like, we gotta know how the tech works before they end up using it.
While that's going on, Sheridan calls Franklin. Is like, hey, I need you to come to my office. Make sure to bring Marcus because some stuff was about to go down. Sheridan is walking. That's when he bumps into a drunk Ivanova, and it's so funny because like she falls out of a lift, and there is a Drazi that it looks like she had like finished punching him in the face. I don't know. And she's walking with her cane that she hasn't needed for 2 seasons. And she's like, oh, don't even ask. And it's like, sure, not gonna ask. She seems to be enjoying herself for at least just for like 3 seconds in one scene in this whole series. She's enjoying herself. Yeah. He ends up going to his quarters. I don't know if is this Delenn's quarters, maybe, or his quarters. And Delenn is in there and she's in this nice little black dress that definitely has Sheridan's attention. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, you owe me a third date. And
be his quarters.
Huh?
Because they walk into her quarters and wonder why she's there.
Right. Yeah. It must be. Yeah, it must be.
Quarters have all the Minbar crap in it. So, yeah, this was his quarters. This was too plain, too human.
Yeah, okay. And it's also very dark.
Mm-hmm.
And he's all like, well, okay, I don't understand. And she goes, look, remember I said we needed 3 nights? The first night was this thing. And I stay with you. Like, that's when his wife showed up.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one was on the ship. And then she's like, you owe me a third one. And then he's like, this is a little weird. This is coming out of nowhere. I know we've been busy, but something's up with you. And then she reveals like, okay, I'm going back to Minbar and I would really love to go to dinner before that happens. Like, Sheridan, I really need to be with you before I leave. And he's like, okay, but I was going to do a meeting. I'll catch up with you after the meeting. Cause he's just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with her. Whatever. Nah. So he's in a meeting with Marcus and Franklin, and he's like, hey, we need to make a move against Clark. The way the media is treating us and this embargo, they're putting the squeeze on us. And Franklin's like, I don't know if that's a good thing because the thing that they want us to do is to make a move before we're even ready. Like, we don't even have the resources. And Sheridan's like, exactly. That's why I need you to go to Mars and connect with members of the resistance there. I need to send you all so they know who we're dealing with, that, someone's credible. And I hear that explanation, but I don't get it because Franklin's the chief medical officer. Like, wouldn't Ivanova be a better person to send?
Probably.
Yeah,
I was thinking maybe someone gets hurt. At least they got a doctor. Oh
God. I mean,
but he is on the command staff. So like he's privy to certain information. So like, and also he's a part of the command staff that's not military. Even though he's technically military, he's not a warrior.
Okay.
So he looks less conspicuous. He doesn't look like we're out trying to strategize because he's just a doctor. Okay. Without putting too much, thought into the fact that his father is military, right? Raised them like we were a platoon.
And Marcus is gonna go as his bodyguard, and this is gonna be a buddy episode when they finally do their thing. So that'll be pretty funny. Franklin, in that conversation, he's like, hey, while I'm there, should I check in on your parents? Figure out if we can get any information. And Sheridan's like, no, I don't want to risk it. Besides, my dad, us Sheridans, we're tough. We're survivors. So don't waste any of the time and the resources, which the whole thing is Sheridan's like, I know they're doing it to get at me. So let's not show them that they're getting at me. Like, let's keep this hushed. And the less that I do with that, the better.
It also sounds like they're trying to set a trap.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to catch him there really well because we're going to make sure that this is what act he makes. So he's like, Nah, you're being a little too obvious. I'm gonna go around that.
So they get their orders and they're ready to go. And there's a couple of questions that I have here because their whole thing, remember, they seceded from Earth because of President Clark, and their whole resistance is like, we're gonna hold out until Clark resigns and we get new elections and everything goes back to the status quo. But they just fought a whole shadow war. Babylon 5 is different, and the humans are different. They're doing some different things. So, like, with the changes that all of these parties have gone through, there's no turning back to what the status quo is, especially with Sheridan coming back with all of these alien allies. That he's doing the job of Babylon 5 when Earth government turned its back on it. And so it makes me think, like, is there any actual returning? And does Sheridan and the crew know things will never go back to the same way, right?
Right? You would think they would know that because things are never going back to any time in which they were at any point.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't understand people saying that, but that's just me. I understand that the only constant in the universe is change.
Yeah. and these are some major changes, and conflict changes you. So,
like, even if they could go back to Earth and have a president that was like the one they had before, it's not going to be the same. Like, time has passed. Even if Clark was never president, they never had to succeed, things would still be changed because time would have passed.
And then also, was that even good? President Santiago and those senators, Sinclair hated them. He was really struggling. It's like, I don't know why y'all sent me out here, and then I can't do the job that you telling me to do.
Yeah, and things just got worse. It was like, wasn't it better with the ones that you didn't like simply because they sent you to their job? That was half the reason why he didn't like them.
Right.
They're supposed to leave him alone.
So we switch from that, and now we got Delenn getting ready to go into the dreaming. She basically leaves Sheridan while he's asleep, and she grabs her robe. So she, quote unquote, technically got to watch him sleep. She got her third day, but as you know, the night didn't finish. She's on her way out. Lanier is just hanging outside the door like, you didn't tell him you were leaving, didn't you?
She didn't tell him either.
No, she didn't tell him either.
He would have told Sheridan. She didn't want to tell Sheridan.
Right.
So you can't tell Lanier because Lanier tells everybody everything. He'd be like, I didn't tell you this, but.
And she was trying to sneak off without him. And he was like, look, I promised you that I would be by your side always. So I'm going. I don't care what you say, woman. And again, let's highlight Lanier's love for Delenn. It's not a romantic love. It's in a platonic era, but it is true love too. And his devotion, his commitment is, I would say, pretty noble. It's not toxic. He's not doing anything against anyone for her. He's just like, hey, I want you to be happy. And you're about to do some serious stuff that might not make you so happy. So I'm going to be right there with you, because if Sheridan can't be there, somebody needs to be.
Right.
And so there she is standing before her clan, and there it is Kalen, which again, it sounds very reasonable. He airs the concerns of the clan, like, hey, no Minbari is taking an off-worlder or a non-Minbari as a mate. Her decisions affect the laws and rules of the society, not just herself. And again, this sounds reasonable, and this is kind of cool because it's like, whatever she does, she's doing something that nobody ever done before, and it's going to set precedent for the future. So they got to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to handle this?
So they got rituals for everything.
And that's kind of cool. They want to know, is this the calling of her heart or something else? The clan is going to investigate what her true motives are in the pursuit of this potential marriage. This is the part that I liked. Kaylin asks her, will you honor our decision? And she's like, yeah, I will honor your decision, but if you made up your mind, how is anything good going to come from this? And he's like, well, we just need to know what this is. And she's like, but I love him. You know, the heart does what the heart does. Isn't that good enough? What else could there be? And he goes, well, we're going to judge you by other criteria. And she's like, what possible other criteria other than love? And he's like, I don't know. We need to know. We need to find that out. And I understand, like, okay, she's skeptical because they're really pushing for this because she seems to be set up and never marrying Sheridan.
If it goes a certain way, she can't go back.
And she feels the setup. But on the other end, the tradition is kind of cool. It's like, again, you got people who care for you, who part of your clan, part of your tradition, and they want to know what's going on. Like, hey, since we're about to change everything about our lives, let's do this with a little bit of foresight. And so she's troubled. They're not convinced that by her being in love is good enough. She's convinced that they've already made up their decision. It's really Kaylin who's like kind of the voice of the clan. And while all those traditions sound cool, maybe he has his own agenda. So they go prepare for the dreaming. Delenn has been part of the dreaming before. She experienced it with Dukat. This is where she says he was the greatest of them. She was an acolyte at the time, and we get to see a flashback, and this is where we get to see Mira back in her full Minbari makeup with the bone and no eyebrows and everything. The flashback goes forward, and it shows us as Delenn relives Dukat's death, and she is very terrified to relive that moment. Secret. So, yeah, secret. So in the chamber, her and Lanier are hanging out, and they're talking about it, and she's worried about Lanier changing his mind about her. And she's like, are you sure you won't leave me no matter what you see here? And he goes, no matter what I see. So then they both drink their ayahuasca. and they start to hallucinate, which I'm kind of curious. Is this like a shared conscious experience? You know?
Feels like I would translate it as hologram type thing, but maybe the drink is like a nano that connects to their brain, pulling up their subconscious thoughts.
Or let's do some headcanon. Since the Minbari cities are cut out of crystal, maybe they have the crystals cut it a certain way where they resonate a certain way, and then they drink the fluid, and that helps them all connect their consciousness. I don't know.
Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
The crystals are tech. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially since they use them to collect data, they could be using them to transfer data as well.
Yeah.
So it's a collective hallucination.
What if it's a combination of a collective hallucination, the resonating from the crystals? It's just a giant holodeck. What if that's happening?
Yeah, and the holodeck is collecting the data from her subconscious.
Yeah. So we're introduced to baby Delenn. Baby Delenn, she has like this kind of awe about her hanging around Dukat. He brings her into the council, and she helps them make a decision because the council has been discussing, like, okay, there's these humans. We don't know nothing about them. What should we do? And they're kind of like stuck. Dukat is drilling Delenn on the decisions, like, hey, do you consider yourself worthy of even being here? And she's like, no, I don't know. Like, why am I here? And he's like, well, we've been trying to make this decision. We got these humans. Do you want to hear everybody's concerns? She goes, oh, they're smarter than me. So no, there's a reason why they council. And he's like, the correct answer is yes. And so he proceeds to overrule all of her like fears and concerns. And he's like, look, the worker caste thinks it's a bad idea because if we make first contact with the humans, our position would be weaker because there'd be more food sources and alien artifacts that's going to ruin our economy. Which now we have a little bit more information about the worker caste. The religious caste, theirs is like, we shouldn't be involved with strange and primitive ideas that would set us back.
Which is weird because all y'all do is collect information.
I think what they're thinking about is like, if we make contact and we do fully embrace this new species, we're going to intertwine our cultures. And they're all looking like, we don't want our culture to change to be like humans. Look, do you see what they do?
Which is weird because you're friends with the Centauri.
They know of the Centauri. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're friends. They don't like. They don't like them.
You associate with them because they said that the only thing that they know about them they learned from the Centauri.
True.
So why are you friends with the Centauri and you like, oh well, they're primitive and they're not as whatever and they're aggressive.
Very aggressive.
He said they learned that from the Centauri.
But they learned about watching them with the Centauri. Like, well, they're just like the Centauri, so we probably don't want to hang out with them.
Everybody, which means you're already friends with the more aggressive race, and you're only taking the aggressive race's word for saying for the humans, which I mean, technically they're not wrong. Humans are pieces of shit.
Yeah. And the Warrior Cast said they should have nothing to do with violent inferior cultures. There's the fascism. I wrote down that Dukat comes across as being a little bit more progressive, especially for a religious cast Minbari. When he poses Delenn with the question, she's like, what about curiosity? Like, the worst enemy is the one that we don't know. So, like, I mean, wouldn't it be okay for us to learn? And then Dukat completely rebukes the Great Council. He's like, look, you see, you guys, for curiosity's sake, like, y'all done lost all sense of joy that even an acolyte has, which is curiosity. Like, we want to learn things. Well, let's learn it. Why do we want to hide, right? And it shows that, like, maybe the Minbari are not as enlightened as we thought they were. They have all of these systems put up, but they still have their own fears.
Yeah. I mean, especially since they've been spacebound for over 1,000 years. And now it's like, what do we do if we meet another species? Like, have y'all been doing this all? Maybe they're not as primitive as the humans.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it kind of, unfortunately, mirrors a little bit the Vulcans.
Oh,
with the exception of the Vulcans actually using that curiosity and just observing them for a bit before they want to talk to them.
Yeah.
At least the Vulcans decided to observe us and learn something about us, even if they didn't want to talk to
us. Even though they're just like, oh, humans, they don't use logic. So then we fast forward in the dreaming when we see that Delenn is made a Satai by Dukat. And what is interesting, remember I was saying, like, there's some practices, some habits that Delenn exhibits. Delenn sees Dukat as the greatest Minbari, right? So she mimics him even to this day. Because what Dukat, he's trying to tell her something important. He's like, hey, look up. Look at me. And she's like, eye contact is disrespectful. And he goes, look, I will not have an assistant that won't look up. You'll be constantly running into things.
That's the same thing she told Lanier.
Yes, exactly. And then Lanier did the same thing. He lifted his eyes in fear. It's like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to do this. So that makes me think that Lanier and Delenn are almost the same person. And that's why he was assigned to her. He really took to her because he reminds her of herself. There we go.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of Dukat talking about what the decision is. Since the council said no, they're not going to go forward for first contact. And Delenn is like, so you're not going to override their decision? And he's like, no, because you never use authority as a club, which is, okay, don't be a dictator. You can be as disappointed as you want, but these people are operating out of fear, so we're not going to do anything. We see it kind of like a montage. Dukat brings Delenn into the Great Council. She becomes a member, and they present her with the Triluminary, and it lights up, and Dukat is like extremely like shocked. And some of the comments that he's been saying about her is like, hey, you know, you're special. When the Triluminary lights up, she goes, what does it mean? And he goes, it's something that I've been suspecting for a long time. But before they could even have a conversation about that, the alarm goes off. And it turns out, even though the Great Council voted against first contact with the humans have already initiated first contact. They're like, okay, these ships, we don't know what they are. Oh, those are human ships. And then one of the Warrior cast members of the Great Council is like, okay, so we don't know much about the humans, but we're going to still greet them in the traditional way, which is gun ports open and we're going to approach. Which, what? How is that a tradition? How is that a tradition?
It's kind of like it reminds me of like the reason why you shake hands or where that came from. If you your opponent's hand, especially with your right hand, it proves that you weren't like hiding a weapon to attack with.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really attack that way. And like that's also why the Japanese sit the way they do for meals and especially for tea ceremonies. Because if you got a bunch of samurai together to have tea ceremony, they want it to be peaceful. You can't get up and fight very easily if you're sitting like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So many of traditions are to keep people from murdering each other.
So this was the alien spaceship version of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how having your guns ready is the equivalent of that, but it's the story. It's told that it's kind of like that.
Right. It's like we're showing our hand. We're showing that we don't intend to fire by pointing our guns at you and moving towards you. Also, the Minbari can't translate the humans' language yet, and so they're like, okay, we don't know what they're saying, but we're going to do this, which is crazy. And Dukat is like, what? No. Who told you to do that? It's like, what do you mean? Nobody, who told us to do this? It's tradition. It's common sense. And Dukat just yells like, stop everything. Then we look and we see that outside there are Death Eaters, Death Hunters ships, and they're like, oh God, no. Death Hunters only show up when there's gonna be great death, and that's when Dukat yells out the command to like stop everything, but a little too late because the humans open fire. They attack the Minbari fleet and they cause a lot of damage on the Great Council's ship. A little bit of a callback,
which is also weird because throughout all the lore that we get from the Minbari War was that they were like enormously hard to fight. Maybe because their shields were down.
Yeah, their shields were down. They were presenting themselves as harmless, so they were harmless.
Right, and like that was it. I didn't think about like the fact that maybe their shields were down, and that's why. But I'm just expecting their ships to be so much more sturdy because of the grand story of how the captain became the death when he killed. When he actually, and that was the only time that any human had ever destroyed one Minbari ship. Yeah, I'm like, is it because they're just that difficult to hit? Like, I'm thinking, okay, the puny little humans came and said pew pew, and then like I'm to just look at them like, yeah, get rid of them. That's annoying. Yeah. Actually, some damage the first time kind of makes sense.
Yeah. A quick little callback is from the episode Late Delivery from Avalon. That's the character David McIntyre. He was on that ship and he was the one that had to carry out that order to fire on the Minbari. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of connect a couple episodes, he's on that ship and he's the one at the helm firing.
Oh yeah.
And Dukat is injured and dying in Delenn's hands while the rest of the rest of the Great Council is running around frantic. She's like, somebody please help me. Somebody please help me. Which, okay, you have to look at it this way. The best of your species is injured, lying in your hands, dying. And now you're under a lot of immense, emotional distress. And we see that Dukat's mouth is moving, but we can't hear what he's saying. And then he dies in Delenn's arms. And then one of the warrior casts of the warrior cast members of the Great Council is like, okay, we don't know what to do because we're trying to make a decision and your vote is the one to break the tie. Do we return fire and retaliate or do we wait to figure out what happened? Which those are two reasonable decisions. Under normal circumstances, a reasonable person would probably think, hey, let's kind of figure this out. We got diplomacy. No, Delenn is like, fuck that. We're going to murder every single one of them.
Well, it's like what I just said. Like y'all could just put up y'all shields and been like, "Okay, you done?"
she even says this. She's like, we were helpless. We were unarmed. They're monsters.
Mm-hmm.
They're monsters. We're going to retaliate and show no mercy. You know, she's screaming at the top. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. She's stressed out. And so they're like, all right, okay, we're going to fire back. Which they didn't destroy any of the ships. They just kind of punctured the hull of that ship. So that I guess that kind of shows you like, okay, you know, Minbar engineering, pretty good, huh? And then they show, you know, it fast forwards later and Delenn has a little bit more of a level head on her shoulders and they've almost killed the humans. And she's like, I think maybe we should just kind of like not go in this direction and shown mercy and wisdom. And the warrior cast member is like, so are you going back on your decision? Delenn goes, yeah, I think we kind of overreacted here. And so they kind of back off. But then let's tie this to another episode. Remember Sinclair's flashback when he was taken onto the Great Council ship? I think that's what happens next. And that's when they stop the war.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When they find out.
Yeah, when they find out.
They found out that human souls are in. But that also goes along with the human. The Minbari souls are going to Earth, and the Minbari have human DNA.
Yes. They kind of do the same thing, because Delenn shows the she presents the Triluminary to Sinclair, and then she looks surprised. She's like, oh my God, I think I know what this means. And so, yeah, they have to stop the war. So the dreaming pauses, and Lanier's trying to comfort Delenn, and she's like, I don't get why the dreaming is showing me this. And Lanier's like, well, the reason why is because you want to join with Sheridan because you feel guilty over starting the Earth Minbari war. This is kind of you seeking atonement for your guilt. And she goes, no, I understand that. No, I'm totally fine with this part of my life. It's not that big of a deal. There's something else going on here. And I really need to know what's happening. She's reflecting on like the whole consequences of the war and everything, but something just is off. And she says, well, if we show this to our clan, they're going to think this is the reason why we're showing it to me because of the war. And that's really not it. Something's really wrong. She reflects on Ducat's words where she learns that she was not chosen by accident. She grabs Kaylin and she's like, no, there's something else here. She grabs Kaylin and is like, no, you got to see this. And he's like, no, the dreaming's over. Like, we need to make our decision. She's like, nope. You need to see everything that I saw. So they drink their ayahuasca. They go into the chamber and they relive the moment that Ducat dies. And she goes, look, I need you to look and pay attention. And for the first time, we can hear what Ducat says. She goes, at the time I was enraged. I couldn't hear what he says, but listen, when Ducat is speaking to her as he's dying, he goes, you are not chosen by accident. What we suspected is true. You are a child of Valen. And that's what Ducat had suspected about her the entire time they were together. After they come out of that dreaming, she's like, so it's true. I am a child of Valen, right? And she confronts Kaylin with this. His objection to her marrying Sinclair was like, well, I don't want you to like spoil the pure blood of the Minbari. And she says, but if I'm a child of Valen, I was never a pureblood Minbari in the first place. You know that Valen is a human from the past, Sinclair. He's a Minbari, not born of Minbari. After he helped win the first Shadow War, he left Minbari and he had children, but his children came back and they spread their genetics throughout the population. How many would you say are in the population now? And Kaylin is like, oh shoot, countless of them. And they're like, come on, man. So you're trying to stop me from getting married, even though there's almost no such thing as a pureblood Minbari? He's like, oh, I was just afraid. You're going to ruin the purity of our race. And she's like, there is no purity in our race. It doesn't matter. If we want to go into the lore of it, the reason why the dreaming is showing her is revealing the truth that like, hey, this joining is actually not that big of a deal because humans have been joined to Minbari before in the past, and it should be celebrated and not feared. If we want to reflect this to humans, these days,
Mm-hmm.
whether people are nationalist or racist or whatever, they're like, we need to preserve our culture and the purity of it. And it's like, I get what you're saying, but what you're saying is futile. You're going to change. It doesn't matter who you breed with. Cultures are going to clash. Some are going to come, some are going to go, but people will mix through all the time. It's happened throughout history. And it's going to keep happening. And when you try to fight against it, you actually start to do some things that are atrocious to try to maintain genetic purity or racial purity or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's pointless. It's pointless. It's just like you said, things change.
And like kind of mirroring human society, when you follow like ancient genetics or genetic, I can't think of the word, but the evolution of humanity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you find out that Europeans were originally from Africa,
yeah,
it's kind of like you being racist against people that are technically descendant from the same people you are.
Yes.
So it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. Like humans are your descendants as well. You're not really saying anything right now.
Right. Right. And it's always funny too, because when people are very isolationist like that, the things that they want to preserve are usually not worth preserving that much. These days we hear we need to preserve the values of Western civilization. It's like, I know what the values of Western civilization are. Like, there's all this cool stuff that came, as a result of humanity, but Western civilization is imperialistic.
One of the weirdest things about that is that, like a lot of when they say Western civilization, a lot of times they mean Christianity.
Or white culture, or capitalism. It depends, like whoever you're talking to, it depends on what time of day it is, because Western civilization is not solely those things, but it includes all those things and the way that they're implemented.
Right. But a lot of those things were taken from other cultures.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
Like especially Christianity was kind of taken from the Middle East. So it's not a Western idea, but they're like Western Christian, well, I guess they altered it so much that it is their idea, but they stole it from the first place.
It became
what they wanted it to be. It's already taken from, it's that same concept of you already are a part of those things. You've already integrated all those things into you. There's no purity to it.
Right. Also, the stuff is like, when it comes to America, it gets turned up to such an extreme that it changes again. Like, the term Judeo-Christian is a made-up term. It doesn't mean what people think it means. And also, Christianity is, I know I'm going to offend a bunch of people about when I say this, but Christianity is a copycat of Judaism, but it pretends to be superior. If you study it, you realize, like, not only is it a bad copycat, but the stuff that you use to justify it being superior is extremely weak. It's not superior. Yeah, maybe we'll discuss this in another podcast, but yeah, it's people put their assurance in some stuff that is very dubious. But yeah, right. We're not gonna do all the criticisms here.
The apologetics.
Oh yeah, the apologetics of it is awful.
Yep. But yeah, people want to believe what they want to believe, because like even him, and that's the perfect point, because him already knowing that there were descendants of Delenn.
Yeah.
Not Valen and Draylin. Why y'all names mixed? But him knowing that his descendants were already a part of them, and then you're still going on about this whole purity thing,
right?
When you really already know there's no purity, but you've got that cognitive dissonance going. Like, we have to keep it up because it is, but even though your subconscious knows it's not. So a lot of people do some shadow work today. Work to connect what he knew with what he was doing.
Yeah. And also, if we look at the concerns of the different casts, we do all of those concerns. Okay, yeah, they're concerns, but here's what you have to understand: humans are a force in the universe. Whether you like it or not, you're going to confront them, and whether you like it or not, your society is going to change. Your values are going to change. Everything's going to change because when you encounter something different, something forceful, something very prevalent, it changes you when you deal with it as well. There's a analysis of power and of like political systems where even when you are in opposition to a political system or to a power, it doesn't matter what you try to preserve. When you come up against those things, you yourself change as well. Part of that is the reason why I don't think that changing our political systems from the inside are actually noble causes, because you take a person who never had power, you put them in a Senate seat. Yeah, mm-hmm. They're going to change because the power changes you. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. The power is going to change you.
I think change is possible either way. Like, we've already seen how some things change about our political structure based on new people coming in. Whether or not it's helpful, there is a change. Like, I don't know how many months ago it was where the two women were going at each other.
I don't know.
She was saying she called her a botched body or something.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like, I don't really pay attention to a lot of stuff, so unless it goes like viral, I can't like sit and just listen to politic crap. But but and keeping up with it is just not my thing. I would rather listen to other people who keep up with it than actually keep up for it myself. But it goes both ways. And the energy changes and flows based on whatever the strongest energy is. So like one or two people going in probably it's more likely to change you. Kind of like a person's accent. If you move to another place, will you keep that accent or gain the accent of the people around you? Mm-hmm. Which is what you're saying. But if like your whole family moves there, or a group of people, or if you find a group of people in that new place, kind of like, I guess, like a Chinatown, where they can live in America and still keep their culture, but they're still affected by it, but they still get to keep it. So yeah, it goes both ways. Like a few people kind of getting in, it starts something, but it doesn't completely change it. It needs more.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It needs more. You can't just send one person up against. You can't send one person to hold a falling wall. You're gonna need more people.
Right.
Yeah. So we come out of that confrontation. Kalen is utterly defeated because his reasons make no sense, and the truth has been revealed. And Minbari are part human. This justifies Delenn getting with Sheridan. So I guess the dreaming went well, because she goes right back to Sheridan on Babylon 5.
A different human already has sex with him in Minbari. It's okay for her to hook up with him.
Yep. Because it's not going to negatively affect the culture. It's not going to negatively affect the species, because the species is already intertwined with humans. They're expressing relief for each other and concern for each other. She shares that her affairs back home have been concluded, but she's not telling him what. And he's just looking like, this woman don't ever tell me nothing, but okay, it's all good. A little update as far as like what's going on with the rest of the crew. They're like, oh yeah, Franklin and Marcus, they're on their way on a mission. They're practically on a vacation cruise. These fools are on a cargo ship and it looks like they have seats fixed in like a in like a doorway, and they just kind of gotta hang out in there. I don't see a bathroom. I don't see any beds. Uh, and they said that the trip is 2 weeks both ways, so they got to spend 2 weeks on this ship going to Mars.
Oh yeah, both ways.
And they're finishing the episode kind of, we have the relief of Delenn being able to come back. We have the revelation of her major secret, which, let me remind you all, she's the one that ordered the Minbari return attack on humans and almost wiped out the entire species. So remember in season 1 with all those humans that have PTSD from the war? Yeah, it's her fault.
Mm-hmm.
She did it. But then they also provide a little humor at the end because Marcus is playing with his retractable staff, and Franklin's like, look, that thing's getting on my nerves. I need you to stop that. It's really crazy. And Marcus is like, okay, it calms my nerves, but if you don't like that, I can totally sing. And him being a British actor and a person of British descent, he starts to sing the Major General's song, which is extremely annoying. And yeah, Franklin is not happy about it.
And very hard.
Yeah, it's hard, I guess. The funny thing about this, it reminds me of Mass Effect again, which I keep bringing it up because I think Mass Effect did take some influence from Babylon 5. There's a character in Mass Effect 2. His name is Morden. Interesting, right? He's a Solarian, and he sings this song as one of his endings. And like, if you finish one of his loyalty missions, he'll sing it for you. It's not great, but it's a funny little Easter egg. It's a fun thing to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get to the end of the episode. The show does end only on like the first verse or whatever. But if you watch the credits, they don't play the end credits for Babylon 5. They play the Marcus character singing like almost the whole song. It is, and then they call cut to make him stop because it's like, hey, stop it. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, he's really showing off.
Yeah. So there we have it. This episode I thought was kind of cool. Atonement. Do we think Delenn has properly paid atonement for her mistake? Because the potential cost is like her being separated from Sheridan forever. Or maybe the atonement is, okay, the Minbari and the humans have this connection and they are finally solidifying their alliance, and through the marriage of Sheridan and Delenn, that helps be symbolic for a strong union, because they with the alliance, the warriors of light and the army of light, they have a very strong connection there, and they could be a positive force in the galaxy. If we want to talk about how this looks in the future, do you remember Babylon 5 Excalibur?
No.
Okay, good, because it wasn't that great. Along with humans being allowed as, part of the Rangers, I think in Excalibur, humans and Minbari share technology, and they develop like these hybrid ships, not White Stars, but like they're like starships, and they look a little bit more like the Star Trek influenced models. So there's that. So it could be in the future, like, again, headcanon, the alliance between Earth and Minbari is like at least the technology is more intertwined, and their spacefaring cultures can be a lot more intertwined, and it can lead to a lot more, well, especially for humans, more tranquility, more enlightenment, and maybe we can kind of like, turn that aggression down a little bit, because more often than not, it bites humans in the ass. Almost being extinct is a pretty serious thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts for this episode?
I don't know if like the whole idea of atonement in general is a weird philosophy to think about. Like, because you can't change the past.
No.
So how do you make up for things that happened in the past? The best you can do is, make the future better. Or I guess the non-atonement, what would not atoning to it be, or what atoning would it be? Because you can either make the better, do better in the future, or you can wallow
Right.
in your pain and suffering and give up. And that's kind of like in everyday life. If you have something that you wanted to do when you were younger and you never got to do it, and or it didn't work when you were younger the first time you try, and you never go back to do it, you don't atone yourself. That's if atonement is necessary, because time is linear. You, do you make up for things? Can you ever make up for things? It's not possible. Like, even though I didn't necessarily want to be a teacher when I was, I can't take that back.
Mm.
I can only move forward. And a lot of times I do use my experience in the schools to help me with moving forward, because it is a part of my past. I can't go and regret it. I can only regret if I don't do the best for my future, because that's the only thing that I have any control over.
I think when I think of it, there's some interesting tools that we can use, because atonement means like, am I paying for my past, right? There's also restoration. The Minbari have done some things to help humans, and they will do some things to help humans because they see humans as themselves now. And that's pretty interesting. That's pretty good. But without that, it's like atonement almost comes across as like, how do we punish you? Like, you deserve this outcome. And very rarely do I ever see punishment be beneficial for anybody other than making somebody feel good, right?
Right.
So,
exactly.
So it's like maybe the atonement, if we want to use that term for the episode, is supposed to be used against Delenn because of Kaylin. Like, oh, for your atonement, you must be alone from Sheridan forever. But in truth, she doesn't need that atonement. But
it'd be different if she was like perfectly fine with killing all the humans still. Like,
right.
Maybe you shouldn't marry one if you're still trying to kill them. But now that and that kind of goes along with the idea that keeps popping in my head, where seeing anything else in the universe, especially from her perspective, because she's a religious caste, seeing anything else in the universe as less than is irrational. Because she was saying, like, in their philosophy, or at least like we mentioned, it may have been before we recorded, the episode where Garibaldi went into that secret deck.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Talking about rejoining the universe and all of you being a part of it. Like, every part of the universe is a part of the universe trying to, no, they don't say every part. They think they are the ones that is the universe trying to understand itself. When all things are made up of the universe. So, like, in some spiritualities, all things are as equal to other things. So to say, oh, well, they don't do what we do, they're inferior, or is not rational to what they've already said their philosophy, part of their philosophy was as religious caste. So that's just more of that cognitive dissonance that they going through.
Yeah. So, I think the next episode we pick back up and we're like in the thick of it with Franklin and Marcus. So we get to see what's going on with the resistance against President Clark on Mars, which the Martians never liked Earth in the first place, but now they have like a strong reason to resist.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get on up out of here. I want to thank everyone for joining us with this edition of Voices in Hyperspace. We are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Be sure to continue the conversation on any of those platforms. You can leave your comments and discuss these things with us. Also, like, share, comment, let your friends get in on the conversation. I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can find me on Instagram at Legendary Black Lion. What about you, Mel?
Tyler, you can find me at melsrebellion.com. I am on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me, and I'm on Amazon. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And read my book, Unrooting the System, and tell me what you think by leaving a review.
There we go. We have our very own author. She's published, and that is super amazing. And you know what? In the future, we'll talk a little bit more about your book. Get some, maybe a side mission. Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next time. Until then, we'll see you out there.